Hi and welcome back to the adventures of Alice in Wonderland. My name is Alison and it's really lovely to have you here with me today. So this video today is going to be a what I read in July, a little look at the books that I read in July, and my TBR for August. That's always sort of, I might read them, I might not. It depends what other books come in at the time, but the things that I intend to read for August. So the first book that I want to start with is this one, and this is the most beautiful copy. So this is The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett, and this copy is just so beautiful. Let me just show you inside. And a page with some pictures. I mean, the writing is just lovely. It's sort of really vintagey look. Let's see if I can find you one of the pictures too. And it's just got the most beautiful illustrations as well. It's a really, really lovely copy of The Secret Garden. Now, just put that down. The Secret Garden was my absolute most favourite book ever when I was a child. I would still say, all these years later, it's probably one of my favourite books. When I was, I don't know, about 8 or 9 years old, one of our teachers at school read it to us every night. They liked to read to us every night before we left for home. And it just really you left school with, instead of leaving school bored and like, oh, what have I done all day, you just left school with that magic and that story in your mind. Yeah, and it really brought it to life for me. And at the time as well, I had a best friend who had just come down to where I live now from Yorkshire, as Dickon in the book comes from Yorkshire. And we used to go out making dens, getting newts out of ponds, climbing trees, catching mice. Also, we don't live in a particularly rural area, and he had what was unusual for around here. He had chickens in the back garden, he had a goat in his shed, and he really was my Dickon from the story. So it was really personal to me. Now, as an adult, I'm not actually that much different to what I was as a child. So it brought back all of those beautiful childhood memories. It made me want to go out climbing trees and looking at the wildlife, and it's just full, the book's full of beautiful, warm, feel-good vibes, beautiful descriptions of the wildlife and the nature and the moors, and lots of subtle nods as well to how being outside, and sometimes not so subtle, being outside is really, really good for our mental and physical health. That's a very strong vibe throughout the book, is children need to be outside and it's really good for them. So if there was any book that I think all children should read, it would be this one. It would be The Secret Garden. So in case you don't know, the story is about a little girl who grew up in India, very, very privileged, very, very spoiled, ends up losing her mum and dad and has to go and live at Miss Uthwaite Manor in Yorkshire. Her life there is very different. She's not really even looked after, taken care of. She's given food, she's given clothes, but she's not given any company or care. But through a series of events, she finds her own way. She finds a secret garden, which she brings back to life. And it's her story, the story of her growth, really, both her mental and physical growth. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful story. I highly recommend it. So the next book that I read was Garden Spells by Sarah Addison Allen. Now this was a buddy read with Desi from the channel Darling Desi. I will put a link down below. If you've never seen her channel before, please do go and look at it. It's the most beautiful, beautiful channel. And Desi's such a beautiful person as well, and that really shines through. So I'm a member of her Patreon group and we do a monthly buddy read. This was our buddy read this time. So the story is about two sisters that have gone apart, they've gone their separate ways, and they come back together in their childhood town and their childhood home. It's a little bit difficult at first, but they find their way. There's romance in there, there's a magical tree, there's lots of magic, herbs, cooking with herbs and flowers, gardens, all of that kind of stuff. There's the most wonderful crazy aunt as well in there. It's a really, really lovely book. The only thing that disappointed me was there's kind of a main event, and the lead up and the suspense to that event is fantastic and it's really well written. But when it came to the event itself, it was a non-starter. It was here and it was gone. It fizzled out really quickly, and I think it wasn't done well enough. I think that could have been done a little bit better. It could have been a bit more of a instead of a fizzle. But other than that, really loved it. It's got all the things that I like in it. Very much practical magic vibes. So if you like practical magic, it's a very similar kind of story. So yeah, I recommend giving that a read. There's another book coming out called called First Frost, which is a sequel book, which I will get and have a look at and see how that one goes. So the next one I read was this one, Desi's Vintage Cornish Campervan by Ali McNamara. I absolutely love this book. I really did love this book. I thought it would just be, you know, your normal summer romance, just an easy read, but it was a lot more. That yes, that is what it was, but it's a lot more complex as well. Beautiful characters, beautiful story. Actually, could not put this down. I was up till all hours because I wanted to know what happened next, and it was just beautiful. It was a lovely story. It was really well written, and I just really enjoyed it. So this follows a girl called Anna, whose friend Daisy has recently passed away from cancer. In her will, she leaves her a campervan like this one in Cornwall. When she gets there, things are not quite as she thought they were going to be, and it sort of follows her story. She has to stay in Cornwall longer than she was anticipating. She's from London, very busy life, as we all have. You know, it was in the city, go, 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 go all the time. She goes to Cornwall and she just slowly starts to sort of calm down and find that a slower life is much nicer, and various things happen, and it's just very, very nice. I suggest that you pick this one up too. Yeah, I really did enjoy it, and I've bought some more Ali McNamara books based on this one because I just really loved her writing. I'm just adding this little bit in because when I filmed about Daisy's Vintage Cornish Campervan, I forgot to add that they find some postcards hidden in the van, which is quite a big part of the story. So they find some postcards hidden in the van, and they go on a journey to return these postcards back to the original owner, which, you know, kind of takes them all over the place. But yeah, that's kind of quite a big bit that I missed out. But yeah, it's a beautiful story. Now, next I picked up on my Kindle The Strawberry Thief by Joanne Harris. Now, I didn't realise with buying it on my Kindle, I picked it up on the 99p deal ages ago. I haven't looked at it since. Thought, oh, Strawberry Thief, that sounds like a nice summer read, I'll pick that one up. And with it being on the Kindle and not a book, I couldn't read the back or anything like that. So I started to read it, and it started in a bit of a strange way, and I couldn't really work out what was going on or why it was like that. It's also told in multiple person perspectives, but at the beginning of each new I don't know whether this is just for the Kindle or whether it's like this in the book as well. At the beginning of each new chapter, it starts as a new person, but it doesn't actually say who's speaking, who that person is. So you have to read it and get part way through before you suddenly realise, oh yeah, it's that person that's speaking. So that was a little bit confusing. I didn't like that at all. I didn't get on with that multi-person perspective in that way when I didn't know who it was that was speaking. But then I realised as well that it's actually the third or fourth book in a series, and it's actually in the Chocolat series. I have seen the film of Chocolat, so once I'd sort of looked it up on Amazon and I'd realised that's what it was, it made a little bit more sense because I've seen the film, so I knew roughly who the characters were and a little bit about the area, you know, what was going on. But I do think that it would still have been it's still okay without, I think it's still okay without reading that. It's a good story in itself, but I have left it halfway through. Basically because there were other books I wanted to read and I wasn't enjoying it as much as I wanted to. I will go back and finish the rest, but what I've done is I thought I would get Chocolat first and maybe do the others first. But the thing that really made the most impact of my not enjoying it was the fact that every chapter I didn't know who was talking, and it takes you a little while to get into who was talking, and it would be much easier, and it may be this way in the book, if they just put the name at the top of the chapter. It would have just made life a lot easier and made it more enjoyable. But I will go back to it. Yeah, I will go back to it and finish it and see how I feel. But like I say, I think I will go back and see what the Book of Chocolat is like first. And if I don't enjoy that one, then I'll know that it's just the writing style or whatever. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do with that one. So then the Vintage Teacup Club by Vanessa Green. Now, I really, really wanted to like this because it's about vintage teacups. What's not to like? I struggled with it a little bit. I won't say I didn't like the book, but again, it's multiple perspectives. It does tell you who's speaking at the beginning of each one, so that's okay. But it starts with 3 women at a car boot sale, all looking for tea sets and teacups. They all at the same time come across this one tea set. They very quickly, for saying they're absolute strangers, decide that they're going to buy this tea set between them and share it. So one wants it for a wedding, one wants it for an event that they're producing, and the other one wants to make candles out of them. So they decide that they'll have them in their turn, which I thought was a little bit strange because, you know, you don't know who strangers are when you first meet them, but maybe that's me being a bit cynical. Also, these 3 women become firm friends very, very quickly. I'm not really a person that does groups of girlfriends and that kind of thing, so maybe it just wasn't the right book for me. Also, I found that each chapter was a different person's perspective, and it was a bit about their lives, but there wasn't enough for me of the teacups and that together, doing stuff together. Each chapter was sort of more a piece of their life, that separate person, but they were kind of not, I don't know, it seemed disjointed to me. It felt like reading an episode of EastEnders. There was a lot going on and that was interesting, and I did enjoy their stories, but they were disjointed. It was just like, oh, this is going on here, this is going on there, this is going in here. Oh, let's get together and talk about teacups, this is going on here, you know. And it didn't, rather than I thought it might be, they make friends and then they move forward from there together. I don't know, there was something about it I didn't like, but it ended beautifully. I did enjoy the ending, and I did enjoy it. I didn't stop reading it. You know, I carried on. It was, you know, it was okay, but it did just feel a little bit disjointed. I mean, the whole thing with the, you know, the whole girl pals thing. I mean, they'd only known each other a couple of months when it was described that one of them thought she was pregnant. So one of the others went over and sat on sat on the side of the bath while this girl weed on a pregnancy stick. I mean, am I out of the loop? Do people do this? Do girls become friends this quickly that they would have that amount of intimacy in that short period of time? I don't know. It all felt a bit weird to me, but yeah, it was okay. It was okay. So my last book for July was this one, Escape to the French Farmhouse by Jo Thomas. And again, this was a lovely book. It follows the story of this lady that's gone to live in France with her husband. Her husband wants to go home. She decides that she doesn't. So she has to carve out a life for herself. But instead of being part of the expat community, she decides she wants to be part of France, part of the Provence and the little town that she lives in. So it's all very feel good. It's about the family that we choose, being part of a community, random acts of kindness and how they bring people together. It's just a really, really feel good book. It's set in Provence. She moves into a lavender farm, which she starts to bring back to life. And you know, you feel that warmth of the sun on your face and the smell of the lavender as you're reading it. There's lots of cooking with lavender as well, and in the back there's actually a couple of recipes. So a couple of the things that are in the book, the recipes are included in the back, which I thought was a really nice touch. So there's a recipe for lavender shortbread, apricot and sponge jam, apricot jam sponge cake, and lavender lamb as well, which are they're all things that are made in the book, and the recipes are at the back. So I'm definitely going to have a go at making the lavender shortbread cookies. But yeah, it was just a really, really nice, feel good summer read. Again, bit of romance in there, but it's all about being kind, being nice to people. So that's it for the books that I read in July. I am actually quite a slow reader. I kind of read as if people are saying it, so it makes it quite slow. I can't skim read like some people can. So I usually tend to do about a book a week. So for my August TBR, I've based it on that I'll probably read a book a week. If I read more, I do. If not, it's not putting any pressure on myself. So the 4 books that I want to read for August, the first one is this one, The Butlins Girls. by Elaine Everest. So I used to love, I've said before in another video, I used to love going to book lanes as a kid, and as an adult I've been as well. And this is all about a girl that goes to be a redcoat, which is something I always wanted to do. So I really wanted to read this book. And also because I like to read quite seasonally, I wanted to read it in the summertime, which is holiday season. So I'm going to be reading that one. The second one I'm going to read is Escape to Willow Cottage by Bella Osborne. Now, when I bought this one, I bought it based on the fact that it's about cottages and the cover's beautiful, and you know, I really love cottages and the countryside and gardens and all of that kind of thing. So this one I think is a bit of a romance. It's starting over again, new starts, renovating a cottage, which I'm also interested in, and finding a new life. So yeah, that seems like a summary kind of read as well. So the third one that I'm going to read is Always and Forever at Glendale Hall by Victoria Walters. Now I have just started to get through this. I'm only a few pages in, so it's another summer romance type story. So far I've got through. It's a young girl. She had an accident which kind of left her with a bit of PTSD, and it's made her become, she's a bit fly by night. She doesn't stick at jobs very long. She lives as though, you know, she's only got today to live for, and she's just very reluctantly, after losing her job again, taken on a job at Glendale Hall. That's as far as I've got so far. She's literally just arrived there. So I'm really, really looking forward to seeing what happens next. Victoria Walters has actually also got a YouTube channel, and she talks a little bit about books and how to write and things on there. So I'll put a link to that as well down below, so you can go and have a little look at that. So the last book that I'm going to read in August is something a little bit different. I'm sort of veering away then from the summer reads a little bit, and it's Kingdom of the Wicked by, and I need to read this, Kerry Maniscalco. I think that's it. So this is a YA dark fantasy book. The genre that I've always sort of read in the past has really been YA dark fantasy, you know, things about witches, vampires, that kind of thing. I then sort of went on to these more, because it's summertime, these more sort of light-hearted summer romancy type reads. But as the year goes on, and then as we're going into autumn again, I will go back into those more spooky type books. I do now also like, as well, I found that I really like Victorian Gothic spooky ghost story type books. I'm not a horror fan, I don't really like horror, but those lovely Victorian Gothic spooky stories I really love. So there'll be more of them as the year goes on, but I thought that this one would just start to break me back into that again. Don't know an awful lot about it apart from that, and I'm really looking forward to getting stuck into that as the seasons start to darken a little bit. So I hope you've enjoyed that little wrap up, that July wrap up, the things that I've read and the things that I'm going to read next month. And I hope that you found something that you might like to want to read as well. My next video is going to be a book haul. The first week of every month I'm going to do the books that I've hauled that month. So if you really would like to see that, then press the subscribe button down below and click the notification bell, and that way you'll be notified when things come up, when I put more videos on. And I hope to see you again soon. Thanks for being with me today. Bye.